Run up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about a special Honda Civic. Not a little cheap runabout economy car, a Civic Type R. Honda's gone a long way from the original Civic. They'd had a little bitty two-cylinder air-cooled motorcycle engine to this 306 horsepower monster. This is one special Honda Civic. Now, certainly not a cheap econobox car. A customer recently bought this one brand new. It's a 2019 for about $38,000. They're not giving them away. Now, unlike other Civics, this thing gets 22 in the city and 28 on the highway, which is horrible gas mileage for a car this small. But on the other hand, when you check under the hood, that's really not bad gas mileage for an engine that puts out 306 horsepower. I mean, just a while back, people thought it was really something that they could get 100 horsepower out of every liter engine size. This thing is 2 liters. It's got 306, so it's got more than 150 horsepower per liter. It's a lot of power for a small car. After all, Honda's really known as an engine company. They make more 4-stroke internal combustion engines every year than any other company in the world. And in this case, the R isn't just some fake name stuck up. This thing is really made for racing. You might think, oh, all this stuff, it looks like a toy. It's not a toy. Everything serves a purpose. From the air dam on the back, when you're going really fast, helps downforce. And even when you go up here, you'll notice these. Well, those are to create vortexes so that it works even better. This was designed by engineers. This wasn't some kid making a cool looking toy. There's reason behind all of this. And as we go down the side, this isn't style. These flares are to help cool the engine and the brakes. This thing was designed with racing in mind. Check out these giant calipers. They're Brembo, top of the line racing brakes. Drilled rotors so you don't get fade when you're racing, slamming on the brakes, stopping on the gas. This is a serious driver's car. As we go to the back of the car, this isn't just for show. This is an engineered, tuned exhaust system. Makes a nice sound too, and a rather unique expression. Having a triple, not a double, but a triple. Now as we go inside, you can see it's set up for racing. Not fancy leather stuff, but serious racing seats when you're cornering. And this thing, man, does it corner. Start it up. Of course, being a Honda, it starts right up first thing. Got all kinds of fancy stuff in the dash. And if you mess around with the computer setup, it can even be run for track racing. Keep laps in it. This is a serious car. Honda links, app links, settings, navigation. This is a seriously designed car for a driver. And as with any serious driver's car, what's smack in the middle? Not a speedometer, the tachometer, so you can match revs while you're driving. And you want to race around? You can put it on race suspension, or you can put it on normal, or you can put it on comfort. You're not racing around, you want a little more comfortable? You can make the suspension system softer so it rides better. 6-speed standard transmission. Honda makes great standard transmissions. They're killer for shifting. As we get out, look at this. It's a 4-door. Hey, now he's got it down for his dogs and stuff. Shows the seats go down. You got quite a bit of room. When you put the seats up, there's still a reasonable amount of space for sitting. It's not that tiny. And yes, it does have a trunk, regular sized trunk. You can put stuff. Like I say, if you flop the seats back, you got a lot of space to carry stuff. It's a handy utilitarian car too. But of course, that's not why you buy a Civic Type R. You buy a Civic Type R to drive fast. Why would you pay $38,000 up if you just want a little utilitarian car? Go get a plain Civic then. Don't spend all this money. Now this thing just doesn't look fast and have a big engine. It's got a special front suspension for racing. This thing is made for cornering. I've driven actual race cars. This thing is pretty close. You get real tight steering this thing, cornering like mad. You can see it's low to the ground. This thing was designed for going fast, both in a straight line, more importantly, on curves. This thing eats up the twisties. Not really surprising though, but Honda started as a motorcycle company. This is kind of like a 4-wheel motorcycle. For people who are getting old like me, that the 2-wheel ones are getting a little bit too dangerous. This thing, this low to the ground, it's made to corner. The lower you go, the better they corner. It is a little bit rough riding on bumpy roads. This thing wasn't made for that. It's made for going fast. It'll go down the road. Even a normal Civic isn't the greatest ride in the world. But they've made it as good as they can with their active suspension system. You can put it on the comfort setting, so it's going to ride as good as it can in town. But then as soon as you either get on a track or you're out on the highway, put it in a racing mode, it's going to be a lot stiffer and it's really going to handle well. Now, if we had X-ray vision, we could see this as a very lightweight chassis. The hood's all aluminum. It's a very strong yet light car. It's made for going fast. That is its main purpose in life. Now, just to compare, my Celica there has 110 horsepower in a 2,600 pound vehicle. This has 306 horsepower in a vehicle that only weighs 400 pounds more than that. So, you got an extra almost 200 horsepower for 400 pounds extra weight. It's a lot of power. Now, purists might say, hey, the Celica weighs less than this. Well, the reason this weighs more, it's got solid, heavy-duty racing components. You can't make things light and cheap if you're going to drive it as hard as this thing. This thing is made for speed, and you got to have some kind of weight with speed, strong parts. You're not going to be using lightweight, cheap plastic suspension parts on a car with that much power. They'd snap. This thing is solidly built. So in this case, some weight is actually a good thing. You don't want a super light, fast car. Be too light, take off. So this is a happy medium between a lot of speed, strength, so it'll last, both in terms of how long it'll last in mileage and how much it can take on the road when you're really racing around. You don't want some cheap part breaking off when you're doing 100-something miles an hour. Now, I know some people are going to see this Earth Dreams technology and they're going to say, oh, I don't want to buy this. It has oil dilution problems. But that's not correct. It's the 1.5 liter Honda engines that have the oil dilution problems, not the 2-liter ones that they put in this screaming monster. They're arguing back and forth about the oil dilution problems anyway. And what it comes down to, basically, they seem to be diluting before the engine's warmed up. This little thing, man, it warms up fast. It's set for speed. Doesn't take long to warm these up. So even if you're only driving a few miles, this thing's warmed up fast. It's not like the little 1.5 liter. But enough talk. Let's take this thing for a spin. Start her up. Yeah, we'll roll up the windows. It may be a little race car, but it still has all the conveniences of air conditioning, a nice backup camera. So let's see how it accelerates. Takes off fast, especially at high RPMs. That's what this engine was made for. Now, it's not a particularly quiet car inside. It's made for zipping around. But man, the suspension, this thing is so tight. You turn that wheel, and the brakes, man, they're killer with those big Brembos. Like I said, you're gonna feel bumps in this car. It's more of a race car, not something that you tool around and rides like a Lexus. It handles and rides like a race car. If you're buying one of these, that's what you're looking for. But even though it is fast, look at it. Smooth as can be sitting there idling. You can't feel this 4-cylinder engine. No vibration. The stick shift isn't shaking at all. These are perfectly designed engines. And you take it out on a highway. Hey, that's where this thing shines. Crisp steering. You don't get any understeering or oversteering. This thing tracks great. You want to blow the doors off one of these Mercedes? Hey, no problem at all. If it hadn't been made on the outside with all this racing stuff, it'd be a great sleeper car. Now, I do have to say, one thing that surprises me in this car is, it is just a front-wheel drive car, but it doesn't have any of that classic oversteer. It handles great. Honda has figured out how to make a little race car that's front-wheel drive. Now, they're talking they might make an all-wheel drive one or ever, but as it stands, this is front-wheel drive, and you would never know it by driving it around. It handles great. I realize that if you're going to drive one of these things seriously the way it was designed, you're playing in the upper RPMs. It doesn't really have a bunch of kick until it gets over 5,000 RPMs. When the turbo and the variable valve timing kicks in, then it just screams. So this has to be driven like a race car if you're driving it seriously. You shift it at slow speeds, it'll run fine like any Honda Civic. You got to get it, the revs up there if you really want to take full advantage of what this thing was designed for. So if you're looking for a small, racy little car and you got 40 grand burning a hole in your pocket and you don't care about piddling gas mileage, hey, you might check out one of these Civic Type Rs. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.